Cold, very cold, but stunning. It was such an amazing place to be in.
Shooting in Svalbard is just it's an amazing experience because I've never been anywhere else like it, and so that was one of the key things about putting the film together was to set the story in a place that made the darkness of the journey believable, because it's such an epic and amazing location, but it feels there's danger all around, and so that was a great feeling. In theory, shooting in Finnmark should have felt like we were on the mainland in Norway, and therefore, you know, it should have been easier to take, but funny enough, I found it almost easier to shoot in Svalbard, being on the ship.
Because I think it kept all of us together.
Yeah.
You know, and it was the beginning of our journey, the beginning of our adventure. And I think for most of us who had never been to a place like this, it was exciting, yet at the same time very daunting.
Yeah.
Right? Because we never knew what Mother Nature was going to throw at us, what curveballs. She was like a big diva on the set.
Yeah. I mean, and what you got in Finnmark, of course, were the Northern Lights, which are just out of this world, literally out of this world, spectacular. So that's one of the special things about Finnmark and around Tromsø area, which is so special.
And also, I think it was the people. I mean, they helped our story to be told in that very simplistic but very emotional, very, you know, cold yet passionate way.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think when I first came when I came upon the script after Asif sent it to me, and when I first met Asif in Sundance, after I saw his movie The Warrior, I was very fascinated, and I thought that this was a very dynamic and talented director, and I wanted to meet him. And when we met and he began this story of Far North unfolded with his imagery of, you know, the glaciers, you know, how he was going to shoot it, I became fascinated about this love story that Asif had with that place. And it was important to be part of it, because when you are a part of a love story, the passion comes from here. And it lingers on for a very, very long time, even until today. It's such a great experience, all in all, because it started with a very simple, basic emotion, love. And then after that, it went darker, of course, to places that we've never visited. I think learning the story from Asif, you know, was, I guess it was like an adventure. We explored it together, where we were going to take it, how far we could take it, who she was, because the story was about Saiva to start off with. So it was very important as an actor to know what your director wants, and then hope that you can inspire him further to go where it could be weird. I mean, wonderful.
In various versions of the script, Tim and I, the co-writer, and I actually tried out so many things. So often what happens when you write a script, there's a lot that's not in the finished film or in the finished screenplay, but you've been through a long journey with the characters before the film is actually made, and some of that section it takes place in the flashbacks, which are in the middle of the movie, whereas in one earlier version of the script the story was told chronologically, so you started off with Saiva's background and you understood where she'd been from, but we played around with that, and in the end I wanted to do something where we opened the film really cutting to the chase as much as we possibly could, with them setting off, arriving on this island, and Sean Bean's character arrives, and that's when the film starts. And then as we're going forwards, we go back and hint at what Saiva might have been, what might have happened to her in the past, which explains slightly what happens at the ending.
Go on, you.
Yeah, I like folk tales and fairy tales. I like classic stories. Kind of stories that are handed down through generations over hundreds or thousands of years maybe, and which have their own version. I mean, I've met people who said they've heard about this type of story somewhere in Canada. I've heard of other people who've heard of this story in Japan. I've heard of other people. I met someone recently who said it was a Greek story, it's a Greek tragedy, and I like that. I mean, that's the classic thing about folk tales and fairy tales, is that they're so pure that they can exist in different cultures and different languages, and there's a simplicity to them. So Tim and I consciously look at stories like that to work with, to begin with, and then develop them further into our movies.
I Kate. There's a little person at the door.
We were expecting the fairy tale to walk in, weren't we?
The funny thing about the ending, I mean, it's interesting. So I have, you know, so far it's become a key thing in which people talk about when they see the movie. I mean, it's, you know, what you're left with is the climax, and I think so far people have been very good. They've pretty much kept it as something that you've got to see it to believe it. So it's
you don't know how to talk about it.
Yeah, one thing is people don't know how to talk about it, especially if you haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah.
And it's really something different. So I think we've been quite lucky so far.
Because it's not just about the ending. It's the journey. You know, it's the emotional journey. It's the love story. These three in that wild, beautiful environment that you actually experience it.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're sitting in the cinema, very soon you get drawn into that cold, icy, atmosphere. So that's why I honestly believe that's why people haven't gone straight, oh, did you know the ending? Yeah. This is what they do. Because they want the others to experience what they've gone through.
It's funny, I have to say, for Tim and I, we carried this weight for quite a long time because we were writing this story, and then invariably you meet friends and you meet other people and you say, so what are you working on? You go, well, we've got this idea, but you just cannot talk to anyone about it. I mean, it becomes this really tense thing that you carry around. So for me, it's a great weight that finally people are seeing the movie, and you can talk about it and they can talk about it with you, because up until that moment it's quite a bit of tension that I felt we were carrying around on our shoulders, because you can't say anything about it without giving it away, and if you give it away it makes it very difficult to watch the movie. So yeah, I'm glad it's out there. I feel a weight off my shoulders.